In 1914, Europe steps into the whirlpool of a global war. At the dawn of the 20th century, Europe resembled a vast chessboard where two rival power blocks eyed each other with deep suspicion. On one side stood the Triple Entente, Britain, France, and Russia, three nations increasingly alarmed by the swift military and industrial ascent of the German Empire. Opposing them was the Triple Alliance of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, a coalition held together as much by fear as by strategy. Germany worried about being encircled, Austria-Hungary struggled to preserve its fragile multi-ethnic realm, and Italy hoped to carve out territorial gains at France's expense. Against this backdrop of unease, the continent felt like a powder keg waiting for the smallest spark. And that spark arrived in Sarajevo. The Sarajevo spark on June 28, 1914, Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia under Austro-Hungarian rule, became the stage for an event that would change the world. Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Habsburg throne, was shot dead by Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb tied to the nationalist group Young Bosnia and connected to elements of Serbia's Black Hand network. The assassination sent shockwaves through Europe. Vienna quickly accused Serbia of orchestrating the attack and delivered an ultimatum filled with demands so severe that accepting all of them would have meant surrendering national sovereignty. Serbia yielded to most conditions but rejected a few, giving Austria-Hungary the pretext it needed. On July 28, war was declared. Within hours, Austro-Hungarian artillery thundered across the Danube toward Belgrade. The alliance system ignites. What began as a regional clash escalated with staggering speed. Russia, regarding Serbia as its Slavic kin, ordered full mobilization. Germany interpreted Russia's action as an unmistakable sign of war. On August 1, Berlin declared war on Russia. 2 days later, certain that France would join its ally, Germany declared war on France as well. To avoid fighting on two fronts indefinitely, German command activated the Schlieffen Plan, its blueprint for knocking France out of the war before turning east. The plan required sweeping through neutral Belgium. When Belgium refused passage, Germany invaded, triggering Britain's entry into the conflict. London had guaranteed Belgian neutrality by treaty. On August 4, 1914, Britain declared war and dispatched the British Expeditionary Force, BEF, to the continent, the Western Front. From dream of blitz victory to trenches of hell, Belgium's resistance, especially the fierce stand at Liège, stalled the German timetable just long enough to disrupt hopes of a quick victory. Reports of German atrocities, some real, some magnified by Allied propaganda, sparked outrage across the world. Meanwhile, France launched its own plan, known as Plan 17, aiming to reclaim Alsace-Lorraine. But misjudging Germany's main thrust, French forces suffered devastating losses in the battles of the frontiers. The BEF fought its first major action at Mons, only to retreat alongside the French as the German push continued. Then came September. At the First Battle of the Marne, the Allies struck back with a bold counteroffensive that halted the German advance and forced a retreat. With the dream of a rapid triumph shattered, both sides attempted to outflank each other in the race to the sea. The maneuvering ended in the mud and blood of Ypres, where neither side gained more than heartbreak. By the end of 1914, a wall of trenches stretching over 350 miles scarred the Western Front, ushering in an era of industrialized slaughter the world had never seen. Warfare at sea, blockades and submarines beyond the trenches, the war raged across the oceans. Possessing the world's most powerful navy, Britain swiftly imposed a naval blockade to choke off Germany's supplies of food and raw materials. The Royal Navy scored an early victory at the Battle of Heligoland Bight, strengthening British confidence. Germany responded with its silent hunters, the U-boats. Their efficiency became undeniable when HMS Pathfinder sank, the first warship in history destroyed by a submarine-launched torpedo. The seas, once dominated by battleships, were now increasingly shaped by stealth and surprise. The Eastern Front, catastrophe and collapse. While the West bogged down, the East erupted with sweeping maneuvers and crushing losses. Russia pushed into East Prussia but was smashed at Tannenberg and the Masurian Lakes by German commanders Hindenburg and Ludendorff. In mere weeks, Russia lost nearly 300,000 men. Austria-Hungary fared even worse. At Ser, Serbian forces repelled the Habsburg invasion. In Galicia, Austria-Hungary suffered repeated defeats by Russia, losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers. The fortress of Przemysl fell under siege. Desperate, Germany intervened with operations around Lodz, but the fighting devolved into yet another brutal deadlock. The Ottoman Empire joins the war in November 1914. The Ottoman Empire entered the conflict on the side of the Central Powers, launching attacks on Russian ports along the Black Sea. The war now surged across the Caucasus, Mesopotamia, and the Middle East, expanding what began as a Balkan crisis into a truly global conflict. Colonial warfare, Africa, the Pacific, and Asia. The flames of war spread to the colonies. In Africa and the Pacific, the Allies seized Togoland, Samoa, and New Guinea, though Germany managed to capture a few territories in British East Africa. British troops suffered sharp setbacks in Southwest Africa, Cameroon, and Tanga Point. One of the most remarkable campaigns unfolded in East Africa, where Colonel Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck led a masterful guerrilla war, tying down vastly larger Allied forces for years, earning a legendary place in military history. In Asia, Japan joined the Allies and quickly captured Tsingtao, a key German stronghold in China. Naval clashes and the Middle Eastern front at sea. Germany's East Asia Squadron under Admiral von Spee won a dramatic victory at Coronel, only to be wiped out 5 weeks later by British forces near the Falkland Islands. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia, British troops seized Basra, securing access to the oil-rich Persian Gulf, a resource that would become ever more vital as the war progressed. Serbia, the Caucasus, and Christmas in the trenches. By year's end, the Serbian front had claimed roughly 200,000 casualties on both sides. In December, German warships bombarded Scarborough, Hartlepool, and Whitby, killing more than 100 civilians and inflaming public anger in Britain. France's winter offensive in Champagne gained little at staggering cost. In the Caucasus, Ottoman forces suffered a disastrous defeat at Sarikamish, where tens of thousands froze in the snow. Yet amid the mud, cold, and horror of the Western Front, something extraordinary occurred. During Christmas of 1914, soldiers in several sectors spontaneously laid down their weapons, exchanged greetings, and even played football in the desolate stretch known as No Man's Land. The brief truce changed nothing strategically, but it became one of the most enduring symbols of humanity during a century marked by conflict.